Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the Celtic YouTube and podcast that connects the worldwide fan base of Celtic. From Peterhead to Port Macquarie, from Aberdeen to Aberystwyth, wherever you are in this big old world, you are very much a part of A Celtic World. So welcome along. You'll notice immediately that I have got a little more pursuit than our usual host. Gav is off with his son doing a bit of father-son family bonding and some scuba diving. We won't go down the diving route that happened last time. Otherwise, this will quickly go down a hole. I've done it already. There you go. Dear, oh dear. So we'll move swiftly on. Obviously, I'm hosting tonight, and we've got a couple of regulars with us from the other side of the world. Brian, how are you, mate?
Not too bad. Not glad to be back. As I say, last time was unexpected we would be Bridget, so I had to take a few weeks in the reserves before I come back on again. Doing good. Yeah.
Well, we only got some of that, mate. The sound was going again, but hopefully we get the best of you over the course of the show. Great to have you on, Ian. Left it late. Right to the wire, budgeting. Welcome along, mate.
Yeah. This is the budgeting time of year. If you work in a corporate environment, this is when stuff goes mad. People try and spend money whilst planning for next year and stuff. And it's numbers are not my strong suit. I'm like a Rangers accountant. It's just all puzzling the numbers to me. But yeah, no, good. Like, was it? I'm not going to lie. For me, I know you'll say about being to the gym and stuff and being up early, Paul. But I had a late night last night because obviously fantastic from us to take the 3 points, but there was a lot of there was a lot to enjoy in social last night. A lot to enjoy.
Yeah, I was just saying to the guys before I came on, it was a 3:45 a.m. kickoff in Perth, so I was up about 25 to 4. Watched the game. That was great. Straight up, like you're up by then, so it's 5:45, 6 o'clock when it's done. I'd have loved it to hang around for the social media post match. I thought get my fat arse to the gym, so I did that, and then work, and literally just got in the door a little bit ago. So we won't be as slick as the usual content, but we will hopefully have plenty of interesting chat, which is what we're going to try and cover. Before we get into what we are covering, let's see who's in the comments. Some big names and usual suspects. Monty, thank you. Good morning. Christoph, how are you? Good to see you. Monty's up to mischief again. We'll miss that. Monty with some more banter. Brian breaking up like Clement has. Yeah, we'll get to them in due course, I am sure. And a few others. Tam Mac, hail, thank you very much, Tam. So let's just have a wee look at what we're gonna focus on today. Oh, we're not, because my erstwhile boss, if we're going to call him that, hasn't prepared it. So that's okay. We'll crack on. I will tell you what we're going to discuss today. Rather obviously, we are going to discuss mainly the game. That's our game first and foremost, and then we'll cover that by looking at first half goals, any instance note. Second half similar. We will spend a bit of time on individual performances because I think it's worth some time on that. And there was different views ahead of the game, and I'd like to think be interested to see what people think afterwards. We'll look ahead to next fixtures. We've got big game in the cup, and then we've got Champions League next week, and we might mention a couple of other fixtures from last night along the way as well. You never know. But yeah, I guess first up, let's get into our game. We'll start with a lineup like we always do. Quite often there's not much to chat about here, but I think this time that there's worthy of comment. There was some gnashing of teeth from certain people in group chats that I was involved in. The group chat for this show and a few other group chats that I'm in, there was varying opinions that it was close to being a catastrophe with picking such a lineup, and other people that are a bit more circumspect. Ian, what were your thoughts when the team lines were announced?
It was going to be a long night. Like, I saw that team and I was like, I said look, I'm sorry, but see, when I saw Palmer, I was like, oh, it's going to be a long night. And then when I saw Yang, I was like, oh, it's going to be a very long night. To be honest with you, I think like when some of the other changes, when you saw like Ralston at right back and Taylor back in, you were just kind of like, well, that's kind of CCV with Trusty. I thought that was all fine. It's just you kind of always worry. And if we don't have that quality in the wide area, I would, even seeing Forrest over Yang would have taken the edge off slightly. But the fact you had both Yang and Palmer, and so I thought, too many changes. I know, I guess he had to make the changes, but yeah, I felt like it was going to be a long night, and that's the best way of putting it.
Okay, cheers. And just, I guess I should have probably kicked off the 6 changes, which you mentioned, Ian. Like 3 in the back line, Ralston, CCV, Taylor all came in. Engels, I guess he started on the bench against Motherwell. He comes back in. McCowan and Bernardo retained their places, and yeah, both wingers were changed with Yang and Palmer. Brian, your thoughts on anything to add to Ian's comments, just in terms of the lineup, how you felt when you saw that team?
I was disappointed that obviously Baye wasn't available, and I don't know. I just don't. Taylor, I'm not really. I think he's done really at Celtic, and Yang, although he looked a bit lively, just didn't seem to have that kind of swagger about him that Kuhn would have. I think we were very congested yet last night. They seemed to be. It's like the old Harry Enfield, Charlie, Charles on the wing. They're all just moving together. Like it's almost like a kids' game of football. Where they're all running off the ball. So nobody there to unlock the Dundee defence. And to be honest with you, I was contemplating turning the game off after about 20 minutes. Then I thought about you, Paul, having to get up at as Dano would say, the butt crack of dawn.
Yeah.
So
not even. I saw the dawn. The dawn hadn't happened when I got up. I saw that. Yeah. My phone did that thing where it changed from the black background to the sort of the breaking dawn background, and then all the way to daylight. I
heard there were a few birds knocking on your window saying you to shut the hell up. When you were watching the game. I'm talking about the flightish birds, not the usual.
Yeah, parakeets and the like. Yeah, we get some of them at this early in the morning. Spring, they're on their way back. Yeah, look, I think I take the point, especially, I get it. Like those wingers are a fair step down from the form of our main wingers. But I'll be honest, I wasn't really as concerned as some of the, and I don't think you were quite as vocal as others on our group chat, Ian, but there was some going, too many changes is the recipe for disaster. I think we've got a, like, if not then when would be my comment. Like we and there's a broader picture here in terms of some guys need rest, some guys need to game time, because look, if you make 6 changes and you change both fullbacks, both wingers, it's going to be disjointed, and it was disjointed. And coupled with the fact you're changing them, that these guys haven't played a lot together, they haven't played a lot at all. So I think this, like, it's easy just to say, and I'm not saying this is what you guys are saying, but it's easy broadly out in the sort of social media world to say, oh, they've had a shit game, blah blah blah. I actually think Palmer did okay. Like, he was a bit erratic, but he was significantly better than Yang. And he played a couple of killer passes. Just first half he was in and out of the game, but he certainly showed more than Yang. I think, is it not his cross that puts that chance in for Yang, and he should probably score. He had another slide rule pass, which was really good, where Engels broke in. That was him as well, and he had a brilliant crossfield pass, which raked across the pitch. I get he's. I don't think, I've said this a million times, I don't think he's a winger. I think he's a 10, and therefore he doesn't really fit in our system. But we're kind of forcing a square peg into a round hole until we can get another left winger to sort of back up in the squad. And yeah, like I think players like Ralston, he had a great ball into Kyogo early. and he picked a few passes that, others weren't trying, but then his touch was off. He was rusty. There was some slack passes. So, with the good, obviously comes the bad. But I guess the result sort of indicates the pick. Like, if you put the best team out there, yeah, you might blow them away and you can take players off with half an hour, 40 minutes to go. But as it is, you went to the cavalry with half an hour to go and got the job done. So
the issue is, right, okay, like, I'm going to cover a little bit of old ground, but Palmer's decision making is rotten. I mean, it's just absolutely rotten. He's one of the poorest decision makers on a football pitch. Like you said, he did some good things. See if he could even get 50% of his decision making right, he'd have done loads more good bits and pieces. He just, the problem with him and Yang is they both look untrainable. They look as if they both cannot learn what Rodgers is asking. And I think Ralston, I'm giving a bit of a pass to. I thought Ralston was perfectly fine, but Ralston was trying to make the sort of runs that he would make if Kuhn was there. But I don't know what Yang is doing, because Yang was doing none of the kind of feeding of the ball in the areas that Johnson would have to kind of overlap in. I mean, you saw the difference when Forrest and AJ came on. I don't think obviously AJ is a much better player than Ralston, but the same runs were being made and Forrest was finding him. Yang was, again, poor decision making. But Palmer, for me, he's gone, and that's the kind of problem. Is we've got players in the midfield to come in that will do a good job and keep that functioning, ticking over. Looks like the same in defence, right? Ralston, bit rusty, Taylor, bit rusty coming back, but they're more than good enough to kind of be there. The problem is with our system, if we don't have the wingers, then it starts to kind of falter down, because that's the most obvious bit when you see the link-up play breaking down. Like Engels was trying to make some stuff happen, and he's looking up, and it's just static in the wings. Like, Kyogo is kind of crowded out in that middle, so naturally you look to Palmer and to Yang, and there's just no movement. There's none of the same runs, etc. And so that's how it all breaks down. It breaks down from the front from us, and then that immediately changed in the second half when you had AJ come on and Maeda, just because all that movement was there and they were able to find players in different bits and pieces. So, look, I would be shocked, if all things went well, I'd be shocked to see Palmer and Yang in a Celtic shirt next season. I think they would definitely be top of the list to be gone, because they incapable of learning what is required of them. And you can excuse them for being rusty, but it's the decision making and it's not understanding the patterns of our play.
So that's one side of the argument. Brian, is there anything you want to refute there?
No, I agree. It's Palmer's decision making, and Yang looked like a rabbit in the headlights. He just looked at his body language. He didn't look composed. He sort of was almost like apologizing for playing. He just didn't. I mean, Forrest is so economical with the ball, whereas the sort of, Palmer and Yang were, the amount of slack balls I've written down here, slack a number of times, and my wine-inspired notes. But literally, you had your big lad Silla was putting the boot in, from Dundee. But it was very congested for Kyogo, and there was I think it was the 22nd minute. Palmer had a shot where he could have put in Bernardo, and then again it's down to decision making, and he won't change. I think Palmer, there may be a future in it for the last 5 minutes of a game, because he was fantastic in Atlanta, but I was expecting a bit more of that. But he just, either he was trying too hard or just won't listen to what Brendan wants him to do. But,
So you've both mentioned that about, he doesn't listen to instruction, he's uncoachable. Well, Rodgers sees him every single day in training, and he's sort of come in from the cold in the last few weeks. He got game time against Atlanta, which I don't think anyone expected. It was only probably a 15-20 minute cameo, but He worked his arse off. He won throw-ins deep in their territory. He worked for the team, which has been one of my criticisms. Sometimes he plays a bit. I feel like he plays a bit for himself rather than as a full team player. But it looked like his attitude was right, and he was on it. And on the back of that, I think it was this time last week, I said, I can't believe the words are coming out of my mouth, but I'd like to see him get some more minutes against Motherwell. And he did. And yeah, he probably went to, he had one really good chance. And instead of doing the orthodox thing, which is a go across the keeper and try and bend it into the far corner, he tried to be kind of cute and slip it in at the inside post. Now, if he scores, it looks great, but with that, I think you just want him to play the percentages. So decision making, you've both got a point. But Rodgers is obviously seeing something in terms of attitude and application on the training ground that gets him a game, because there's other players in our squad which are nowhere near it. Somebody like Nawrocki, hasn't been seen in weeks.
If it's not Palmer to replace Maid in that side, who is it?
Forrest has been playing both sides earlier in the season.
No, come on.
Forrest played on the left for a chunk of the first part.
Forrest is on the right. He's the understudy to Kuhn at the moment. There's no one.
I'm playing devil's advocate. Well, look, here we go. We've got McLaughlin P. He's in the same camp as you guys. Patience to snap with Palmer. Not something I normally say, but get him to France in January. I agree with you guys. I thought he would be out, but he's sort of coming back into things. I think there might be something there. Our resident stato, Mahesh tells us Palmer led chance creation for Celtic at 4, so decision making was better than most on the night. So there you go.
Even a broken clock is right twice
a day.
Even a broken clock is right 4 times in 90 minutes, or 70 or whatever. A broken clock's right 4 times in 65 minutes. And Kaiser, in deepest dark at Ibrox. Sometimes I think Celtic fans just need to pick on someone. Someone needs someone to pick on. Palmer is the flavour of the month. Well, since Lazio, just the decline has just been massive. It's been massive, and I think it is. I'm not here to pick on Palmer per se. I'm just like, I don't dislike the guy, or I don't think he's like technically a bad player and stuff. It's just he just doesn't. His decision making is just rotten, and his attitude sometimes in the past is not been the best. I go back to the Falkirk when he's doing flicks when we're like 1-0 down against Falkirk. There's just too many things that he's just really not. People in the past, especially on this podcast, have compared him a bit to Cantwell and some of the stuff that he kind of gets up to. And for me, just no. So I'm not hammering him. I just think he's going to be one to go.
Like I said it a couple of months back, this is him in his peak. Palmer, this is his ceiling.
I don't like. So it's not his peak, because in his first 3-4 months of last season, he was playing miles better than this. He was our best performer, and
the team was playing terribly. That's the thing. And don't get me wrong, there is an element of praise within that, but now we're into a system, into a way of working. We're not kind of like patching over the issues. Now we're in Brendan Rodgers' system with his players doing what he wants, working the way he wants, and that is why Palmer's not getting a look in, because he can't come up to it.
I don't think there's an argument that Meyer is a better player, but I think Celtic fans never learn the lesson about writing players off. So if he's good enough for the boss, good enough for me. I thought he put a good shift in last night. I think he was a little bit unlucky not to score or get an assist, and he was probably the brightest spark until the subs. He had a great curling shot that was saved just inside the post, keeper at full stretch. Somehow there was a mad block on the line after another great save by the keeper, which he probably should have turned in, but I think he came off the guy's face. So yeah, I was pretty happy with Palmer, but he's obviously going to split. He's obviously split this fan base. He's splitting this, both the chat and on here. So we've jumped ahead to player analysis. We haven't been spoken about the game. So let's get back into the game. Barely a minute into the match, they started quite quickly. They got a free kick, threw it in the box. We didn't deal with it. And there's a snapshot, and Schmeichel, minute 1, he's down making a great save. I guess, Ian, that's the benefit of having a pretty top class keeper that's been there and done it.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, you don't want to compare to other keepers, but Schmeichel's, got that. I think when he came in, people were like, "Oh, he's the same age as Joe Hart," and they equated the age to ability. But he's down quickly, strong arm and stuff, and that's so valuable because that save there. If Dundee get that early goal, it becomes they just sit in and just protect that, and then that becomes even harder for us than it was. So it can't be underestimated. Like, I think already this season, he's probably he's probably had about like 4, 5, maybe 6 top saves, and I'd put that down as one of them, not just in terms of the technical element of the thing, because he sees it late, he sees it through bodies, he gets down and stuff, but it's a very important time in the context of the game. So no, like, really glad to have him, and you were just like, oh, no, don't do this, don't do this to us.
And then pretty much that was the last we saw Dundee, really. It was one-way traffic from then on. And we started pretty quickly from there. There was a couple of really good chances for Kyogo, Brian.
Yeah, he hit it wide left. Must be something to do with Wi-Fi here, but the stream last night that I was watching on was sort of in and out. But Kyogo, that goes in. It's a different game, and
yeah, because there's a couple of chances, isn't there? There's the first one that I talked about earlier that Ralston plays a lovely ball over the top, and I think he does. I don't think he can do too much more with that than bring, can get it under control in his chest and steer it towards goal, and the keeper makes himself big and gets a toe on it. So people saying he should have tucked that away. I think under the circumstances, he's done about as well as you'd expect, and the keeper's bit of credit there. He's done well. The next one I think is, see your point, Brian, it's a gilt edged chance. He should tuck that away. I don't know. He's just trying to be, slip it in, like slide it into the post, and he's completely in the clear. He just has to pick his spot and give it a crack, and it'll be in. Can you? Who played him in for that? The tired
was
brain is starting to come. No, Ralston played him in the first time. I don't think it was Ralston the second time. Might have been Engels. I think.
It was Engels.
Yeah, I think Engels was sort of, he was running into traffic and he just managed to sort of poke it through and yeah, he should. I think Engels does really well under pressure. I didn't think he had a brilliant game, but I think he was okay. And as you said, he was trying stuff. But yeah, those two chances definitely the best, probably the best the first half. There's a few others. Obviously, we mentioned the Yang chance, and then maybe Luke McCowan's chance. Do you think
Engels had a couple that were blocked as well? Do you know what I mean? There was a bit of a period as well after the Kyogo ones that Dundee were putting their bodies in the line. Engels had a couple of like decent hits at it and things like that. And that's thing for the. I don't know. It's kind of different to last season. Last season, had we had that game and going into half time, it's like, oh man, they're going to get a set piece. It's going to be 1-0. We're going to struggle to break them down. I had confidence we would do it in the second half, and we discussed this on the group chat of our CSC, that it'll be interesting to see when the changes are made, because I think that in the second half we all expected the changes to come after 60, 65 minutes, and then we would go on and win the game, because he would give the players a chance and let them go. But he made them even earlier, which to me is a big learning from Rodgers as well. He's not hanging around. He knows he needed that quality on. So I think at halftime we kind of collectively felt, yeah, we'll still get the result, but we'll need the different players to come on, because it's just not functioning in that forward area to get the goal. But we thought we were going to have to wait to 65 minutes before we kind of saw that.
And I was arguing, even like for the Aberdeen game, we should have potentially made changes at half time, because you're 2-0, but there's the potential of a complacency there, which kind of what happened. If you make changes there and go, well, then the fresh players are like, right, bang, we want to be up and at it, and then you don't necessarily get that drop off. So it'd be interesting to see how he moves ahead with the subs, because you're right, it's usually 60-65. In the end, it's listed as 57, but I think they were starting to get ready before 55 minutes. It just took a while to get them on the pitch. So realistically a 5-10 minute differential. So on that, Brian, the changes were AJ for Ralston, Hatate for Bernardo, and Maeda for Palma. Any surprises there for you in terms of the changes made? Not disagreeing that we should have made changes, but any surprises around the changes that were made and the personnel that went and came on?
No, I was a wee bit distracted, sorry, by Peter Grant's pinstripe suit, and I'm
paired with a black polo neck.
Black polo neck. I was like, my God, what the hell's going on here? And,
yeah, he was wearing a black polo. Yeah, for those viewers in Scotland that weren't, maybe you were watching on Celtic TV. I think they were pay-per-view, but he was wearing a black polo neck and a pinstripe. So he was like a cross between a James off-duty James Bond with a merchant banker. It was a weird look, but
even poor wee Sid was watching him, looking going, can't believe he just looked. I don't know, but the changes, yeah, and within a minute and a half, Yang slips in AJ. There was good work by Maid on the left, and McCann had a good touch of it, and then Yang slips it in AJ back of the net, and just you could just tell the pressure lifting off the crowd. The crowd loved it, and I mean that's the difference. AJ, to me, it used to be the first person on the team sheet for me was Cameron Carter-Vickers, but at the minute it's definitely AJ. AJ is, he's we'll keep him for a year or two. He's a fabulous player. I really do think he's a great man. He's a great leader, and hopefully he'll stay with us for a few years. But he's different gravy in terms of Ralston.
While we're talking about AJ, any guesses how many agains we got in his post-match interview, Ian?
Oh no, I didn't even know he did a post-match. I'll just wait for Gareth to another video.
It was on Celtic TV. It was on Celtic TV. It was 2 minutes and 43 seconds. So have a guess how many agains?
12.
Brian?
5.
It was pretty close. It was 4. And they all came real near the end. Like it was like he was sort of really focused on not to get it. And it's almost like the Celtic TV interviewer was coaxing him because he went and you got the goal again, and then let him lead in, and he managed to sort of resist the temptation, and then there was a flurry of 2 or 3 in a row and one other. So yeah, it was like look, it's for me the best bit about the goal is the run. He said later he didn't know that much about it. He just stuck his size 11 big toe on it and it became unuseful. He said it was not much use for step overs, but pretty good to get the toe on the end of it and poke it in the net. And I think the keeper got caught by surprise. I don't think he thought anything was happening, but much like his goal against Motherwell, he ran from deep and he was intent on getting into a position where he could cause some danger. And the other benefit of that is you're never going to be, obviously it's hard to be offside from a near enough square ball cut back, but he was never in danger of any of that. Going back to the subs, I was very I've spoke about how I thought Palma was the better of the two. I guess in terms of who you're going to take off and who you're going to put on, you kind of want Maeda on, but I was very surprised Yang was still around ahead of Palma because his contribution was nearly 0. And for me, great for him that he gets an assist, but he doesn't know a lot about. He's playing it into area that's deeper, and it takes a pretty big flick off the defender, and that's what takes it into AJ's path. So yeah, he'll go off with a bit of confidence probably in his step, but I really think he's got to do a bit more. To the earlier point, Ian, the coordination between fullback and winger was all over the shop. They were both in the same place nearly all the time. And he just wanted too many touches and slowed the game down. And in a game,
he also takes the ball. I don't know how to describe it because I'm not someone that actually played football in terms of what you say. But he seems to kind of take the ball always facing away from goal. He doesn't seem to be able to take it to stand up the man or face the man. It takes him a while to turn, and he kind of always feels he's going backwards, which is kind of
his body angle and his body shape's not ideal in terms of receiving the ball, and then once he's received it, he then isn't well positioned.
By the way, just as an aside, when we're talking about shape, one of the things from the first half that I forgot to mention, it was as if that referee had been on the Dundee training pitch, because he was getting in the way the whole time, and he was just stuck in that little pocket on the left, clogging up all of our play between Palmer and Engels and McCowan and Taylor. He was just always in the way that first half, less so much in the second half. I don't know if someone had a word with him, but his positioning was terrible. I mean, aside from the usual nonsense of him giving free kicks to Dundee for the same for the same things he let them away with. I mean, this is another one off the conveyor belt of mediocrity.
It's almost like AJ gets fouled and they give the award to the Silla. You know what I mean? Like that
was a crazy one. Silla's got his arm all over AJ, pulling him back, and AJ's trying to battle a bit, and then it's a free kick to them. Happened on the other side as well. It was
He should have been. Silla did a 2-footed challenge. I don't know if it was like reminiscent or something out of Pulp Fiction. One of the dances. The 2-footed challenge in the Anthony Ralston.
Some of the decisions were a bit odd, but I guess that's not unusual. Anyone else agree that Bernardo was a bit unlucky to get the hook?
I think this was I think if you had to take one off, the problem is Bernardo wasn't really needed. Like, if it was Cal McGregor, he'd stay on because of like the mentality and the drive and things like that. But I think we didn't really need as much of that holding role, which is why Hatate came on, and Engels is very good at retaining possession. I know he's faced a little bit of criticism, but again, he's another one that looks after the ball, tries to play the right pass, is in the right areas, and is very consistent. Bernardo, I think, Bernardo's not too far off. He's still good, but I think if you were kind of sacrificing one, you sacrifice the Bernardo position for Hatate to try and inject that a little bit. So yes, he was unlucky, but Hatate was clearly brought on to try some more of those speculative forward passes, add a bit more ammunition in there.
Think it worked?
Well, we won 2-0, so yeah.
I just think in terms of Hatate's contribution, I just thought I didn't. You've got to rotate it. I just, when they were making the changes and I saw Hatate was getting warmed up and ready to come on, I thought based on performance levels, I was like, it's Engels that will get the hook. But obviously, you make a good point. Like, just in terms of performance first half or up to that point, Bernardo was the better player on the park than Engels for me.
And Engels is set piece taker, right? So for corner deliveries and the penalty, etc. That's it. And I think as well, with Hatate coming on and Bernardo coming off, because it's that role, it's the having other stuff to think about. It's occupying, like, do you know what I mean? You could easily not have brought on Hatate and it would have kind of stayed the same. Yeah. But I think it's like adding that pressure to them. They're getting tired. Same thing with Maeda. He's coming on to run them down. Forrest retaining the ball. They were all just, I think they were good quality changes, but obviously designed to give them something else to think about. But yeah. I agree. Bernardo was unlucky in the respective if you look at the performances.
Yeah. Cool. And then Yang went and Forrest came on. So it was only 5 minutes between the subs. And then shortly thereafter, Engels' decision, the decision to leave Engels on the pitch is vindicated because he creates and then scores a penalty. Brian, do you want to talk us through the starting of that move and obviously how it finished?
I've written down again, the stream wasn't fantastic, but the thing of note was 3 minutes to make a decision. The foul took place on the 63rd minute, and the penalty wasn't struck until the 66th. You know, so what was that 3 minutes for? What were they doing?
I think it's a bit daft. Like I was more going like, obviously Engels wins the ball. I think Silla collapses in a heap and hopes he's going to get a foul. And that fair play to the ref, he sees it for what it is and he lets Engels go. And then you really see one of Engels' clear strengths, which is, running with the ball, covering ground quickly. He's got his head up, and the wee man, as always, is making a great little run in behind. And I actually think Engels' final pass isn't as good as it should be. it's a wee bit under hit, it's underweight, and it gives the opportunity for the defender to just get his toe in. And then he makes a really two terrible decisions, because instead of just getting rid of it and either putting it out for a corner or just going through it, he only pokes it a little bit away from himself and into Kyogo's path, and then realizes he's done that and decides he can't let him go. And so he has a little tug on the arm, and it's a little tug. It's absolutely more than enough for a penalty. The ref calls it right for me straight off the bat. And yeah, you're right, Brian. From there, I don't see why VAR, unless they're looking at the foul and the potential foul in the build-up with Engels.
Yeah,
but the ref's got a really good view of that. The ref's got a really good view of that as well. So I agree with you. I think they take too long to make that decision.
I don't know why it wasn't a red card, because the other week when someone didn't get sent off for one of the challenges, all the media were saying that it's only a red card if the person doesn't try and play the ball. And in that scenario, he's not tried to play the ball. He's tried to tug back Kyogo. So to me, that should be a red card. I think there's a lot of, again, this goes back to the referee. I think there's just a lot of inconsistency. And yeah, look, I get it. We get the penalty and we go 2-0 up. But if that's 1-0 and then the penalty's missed and then there's something, these decisions can stack up. So I think it's just, I was surprised to not have him go to the monitor or whatever to show the red. But I agree with you. Engels' pass slightly under hit, but then that's probably what makes the penalty.
Yeah.
So it's a bit kind of fortuitous, but the driving forward and stuff, yeah, it was at that point the game was getting a little bit stretched.
Yeah, and then he tucks it away as he has done, pretty much almost identical, more down the middle than in the corner, but same style of run up. Little stutter, and it's in. The kid can definitely, he's got the confidence to take a penalty. And yeah, I think some of the criticisms come his way is a little bit harsh. You know what I mean? I'm not going to judge a player on his fee. I'm going to judge a player on his performances. It's not his fault. That's the fee. And I hear people saying, well, if we spend 11 million, you expect a certain level. Well, you do. And I think he's more than performing at the level you would hope. And you can clearly see there's levels to come. There's absolutely levels to come.
The thing is, again, we talked about this after Atlanta. You can see, physically, he's a specimen in terms of height, but also strength. He has the touch to go along with that as well, which is not common for someone of that height. He looks after the ball well and things like that. I get he's not, the leading light, as in he's not lighting up the games all the times, but he's not, the criticism of Hatate is he's given that ball away. The criticism of Bernardo is sometimes he lacks concentration, he miscontrols it and stuff. Engels, you're not seeing that from him. And I think because you're not seeing that, people are then expecting what comes after it. And that's maybe the bit that's missing. But he's got to have time to get that. I mean, he's still maybe 8-9 games in to his Celtic career?
Yeah, 10, 11, including all competitions. So yeah, maybe not, because he wasn't, I don't know. But yeah, it's not many. And yeah, I'm not even going to judge him until probably closer to the end of the season.
It was a great penalty, and the good thing about Engels is you don't. I mean, last year Palma takes that penalty, misses. We're now we have a good a very economical set piece taker in terms of penalties, free kicks, and corners, and it's paid off several times with Scales, and there's a couple of opportunities last night for Trusty as well. But I think there's a lot more to come from Engels. I think he's a great player.
Yeah. And Pete McGee agrees. I said it before, the Dortmund game that Engels looked like he was worth every penny of his fee, and I still think he'll prove that. And I don't think any of us would disagree on that. One last thing on the game itself I want to touch on before we get into last thoughts on any performances. We've covered a lot of ground. The potential penalty shout on Scales. I've spoken to one guy I know who's an amateur referee here, and he reckons it's a penalty. And he would give it. So he's probably more qualified than any of us on current rules.
Some sort of lodge at all in Australia?
No, he's a Celtic fan, and he's a reasonably prominent contributor on a well-known Celtic podcast, including Match Analysis. So he said he reckoned it was a pen. I thought it originally on the first view, and I thought it came off his sort of upper arm, and that would sort of mainly that would preclude it because it was quite near his body. In the end, actually, I did see it again today, and it lands on his forearm. But for me, his arm's in a completely natural position as he's challenging for the header, and it's sort of resting almost on the back of his opponent, and it just sort of flops down. Where else is it going to go? If his arm's not there, it's going to hit the attacker's shoulder or his chest.
His back.
Yeah, I just don't see how in any way, shape, or form you can give that penalty. But obviously, there's a little bit of contention. It didn't take them too long to wave it away. So
no,
yeah,
but what I would say on that point, right? And I think we suffered more than most. I think it's fair to say when VAR came in from some absolutely insane handball decisions and decisions in general, like Yang's high boot and things like that. They have, in fairness to them, started to iron that out. And I think you're seeing what maybe traditionally would have been called the honest mistakes. I think they're at an all-time low. I genuinely kind of feel like they're an all-time low. I've not seen many, Rangers fans loving their penalty to Rangers tweets. I've not seen too many like kind of nonsense red cards. I think it was Kelly had one that was a bit like kind of odd, but it's still one. I do think VAR is maybe, and Willie Collum is making that sort of difference, and we are seeing a bit more consistency. It'll be interesting to see which ones they pick for their review show, for the VAR review show. But I think it would be, that's the sort of one that they would give, before VAR. But I think now it's kind of like, there's no point in even giving that because it's going to be reviewed and things like that. So I think the honest mistakes are. What do you think, Brian? Because you're a big honest mistakes guy. Do you think there's less?
Yes. I just think the tackles they're so industrious. They need to. And if your man Silla was playing in Europe, he'd be lucky to last 20 minutes on the pitch. Then they need to sort that out because that has an impact on obviously injuries, but also whenever the teams go into Europe, and they think, right, I can just kick all around me. No, it's still think the Scottish League is the one of the most physical. It's
but you see that with Kettlewell, O'Brien. I mean, like there was a clear red in our last game, and the manager's coming out and saying, and there was a couple of pundits as well. I was like, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think culturally, there's a bit to go before you even can get it into VAR. Yeah,
it's. And then your man Kettlewell coming out and saying, "Oh, I didn't think that was a red card." I was disappointed in that kind of. But there's all this thing about, oh, it's a man's game, it's physical. It's not. That people are going to get injured. Kyogo, there was Silla went for Kyogo last night, the shoulder. It was the 50th minute or something like that.
There was one late in the second half that they didn't go in 2-footed, but went in full force with a single foot. I don't know who it was on, and I was surprised for the referee not to pull that back even for a yellow or for it to be reviewed. There wasn't much spoken about it, but it was Silla again. I think he was putting it about.
I think he was lucky to stay on the pitch given the early yellow and even just on. So I suppose you don't often see players go for a second yellow for the foul top, but at some point you've got to at least have another word, and I don't think he even did that. Look, time's marching on. We're nearly 3/4 of the way through the show already, and we're just wrapping up the game. There is a bit of other stuff to cover, things that might have happened last night. So we'll move on a little bit. It's Halloween, and if you are of a zombie disposition, there was a horror show in the northeast of Scotland last night for the other side of the Glasgow Derby rivalry, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm imagining you boys. I did see a couple of people on Celtic social media saying, "Oh well, maybe a draw would have been a better result for everyone because we'd have gone a couple of points ahead." Like, is anyone in their right mind thinking that? Surely you just want them pummeled. And we'll duke it out with Aberdeen over the remaining course of the season, surely, Ian?
No, 100%. What I would say is, right, let's all just enjoy this because it is good fun, right? It is good fun. I think, if we want to just take the edge off it slightly, Aberdeen do look like they're switched on this season, and we've got the cup game against them coming up, and we can't be complacent in terms of just enjoying the downfall of the new Rangers. I think we've also got to look at the moment for who's the snitch. I think yes, they are title contenders, because if you look at our record and you say, look, we've done fantastic to have 8-9 wins in the draw, or whatever it is, and Aberdeen have done
nine wins in a draw now each. I think it is 28 points out of 30.
The proof in the pudding for Aberdeen will be the consistency, and when it starts to get tough and the games come over Christmas, etc. So they've got that to overcome. But if you base it on the evidence now, yes, they are title contenders and they are in a challenge, because if Rangers were in the same position, we would say that. And Aberdeen are a much better team in many departments, if not all, than Rangers at the moment. They've got a better manager, they've got a better system of play, they've arguably got better players. They've come to Celtic Park and taken a point, albeit we should have taken 3 points there. So no, enjoy it, but keep in the back of your mind that they are like a serious challenge as it stands now. But on the other hand, I am loving the meltdown there. And the problem they've got is they've got no one really. They've got an interim CEO who looks like he's spoon-fed by a nanny with a bib. I mean, that guy, I don't know if it's libelous, but I don't even if he could say the word libelous, that guy. He's not going to sack Clement. Clement's going into these interviews talking absolute nonsense. It's excuse bingo. And not only that, he's throwing everyone kind of low-key under the bus. We decided we're going to basically rebuild. We decide, there's not much we can do, etc. There's so much subtext. Under that. So just enjoy it and consume it all, because he's a dead man walking, Clement. He's a dead man walking.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem they've got is they can't really afford to sack him, but at the same time, they can only go so long with
Paul. That the interim CEO is not going to do it. They need to wait for the billionaire investor that's coming. The Daily Record exclusive after the 17.
Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay. Well, he did create the menu apparently. No, so look, Ian, you accused me of being at it here a couple of weeks ago, before the game against Aberdeen at home. I'll be honest. Sorry, my dogs are kicking off. I'll be honest. I was slightly over egging the pudding when I said, they're just desperate to be relevant. Well, they are relevant, and they've good result against us, albeit we sort of shot ourselves in the foot. And great result last night. They've pulled another one out of the bag. I think they beat United in the last 4 or 5 minutes. They scored to win that game when United were defending stoutly and thought they might get a point. So week by week they've proven their credentials. I'm still skeptical as to how deep they can go in that. But for now, I guess right now they are contenders. They've got the advantage they're not going to be playing European football. So next year you would expect they'll suffer the same kind of challenges that the likes of Killians, at Mirren and Hearts are dealing with this year. But for now, they've got a major advantage there in terms of they have got rests where we potentially haven't. We've got a bigger squad and a much bigger wage bill, so you would expect that to even itself out. You're right, Ian, when it gets into the depths of winter and they're playing, the Christmas period, I don't know how many games will be this year. It'll be 7 or 8 games in the space of like 2.5 weeks or something daft. So that is a period that will really sort them out. Brian, you got thoughts on Aberdeen? How have you been impressed by them so far?
Yeah, many's the time, Aberdeen would have been in form, and then the Rangers would have went up there and got a result. That's a big statement last night. The fact that the one, they were winning 1-0. I funnily enough, stuck a bet on the draw, and then as soon as I stuck a bet on, Rangers scored. But I know that the fact of the matter, they're taking our results, better system, the goals, and who that guy was up front for them last year? Miovski. Are they missing him?
Yeah.
No,
they are.
They're scoring goals with a system. Shinny's in there. You're lookalike, Paul. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but he's a handsome man.
I don't know if it's an accurate thing.
I think it's quite a slur, to be honest.
Oh, sorry, Paul. Apologies. Maybe, but no, they're doing well. They've got a good system. The managers, I don't think he'll be there too long. There'll be a couple of lower league EPL teams maybe looking at him, Palace maybe. But yeah, fair play. They're good. I mean, I don't mind Aberdeen. There's always been there's been a bit of a Celtic connection with Aberdeen over the years. Barry Robson, Scales, and that big fella. Who was he? Played centre back. He was a big animal. Played for them, but he was a big Celtic fan. And the name will come. Teeth missing.
Xander Diamond.
Xander Diamond. That's the man. I loved him.
There you go. Pull one out of the bag there for you.
Yeah,
go back further than that. Billy McNeil, Mark McGee, Gordon Strachan, all done a role for us. But so Brown Warrior saying Aberdeen have matched the Celtic side that have been built, maintained, and managed by many, many more millions of investment. If they aren't contenders, then who is? Well, just because you might not have any contenders, it might just be us. And Lost in Bangkok is, I think I may be that, or David he's saying, well, they're the second best team in the SPFL, but I bet they finish 10 points at least behind us. Now, there's every chance that could be the case, but as far as we're concerned right now, I think you've got to say they're in the mix at this part of the season.
Yeah, I think for Aberdeen and the fans, they have to believe they're in the title challenge, and I think that's what they have to aim for, because that's the right thing to do. And I think they've earned it. I think they've earned the praise. I think they've earned the discussions around it and stuff like that. Like we say, we'll wait to Christmas and see if they can maintain it. Hopefully not for us, because I think, if not them being title challengers, I think at this stage, with them being 9 points ahead of Rangers, you'd have to say, given the start, it could be disappointing for them not to get second, because I think Rangers are in such a state. They've got such rubbish players, such a rubbish style of system. They've got a tin pot manager. They're heavily in debt, all the rest of it. I think Aberdeen should be looking at second place as a minimum this season. And I think they've got everything there to kind of do it. And they've got a massive advantage now, being 9 points ahead of third.
Yeah, well said. So look, I think we'll probably leave I think they'll only, on their game. The thing that really impressed me is I wasn't surprised to see them do well and take the lead. I did think at halftime, when I was reading sort of a little bit of sort of synopsis on the match, that it sounded like they were really strong and the much better team. I saw something say if it was 3-0, it wouldn't have flattered them. Obviously, they're one of the worst penalties I've ever seen. I don't know if you've seen it back, guys, but it's... Well, no, he scuffed it straight at Butland. Like
But they also hit the post.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. So they hit the post. But yeah, the penalty's dreadful. And you just think when those things happen and you don't really capitalise, then you think, well, with beating
there's going to be an honest mistake.
You think with to go down Brian's sort of line, if Beaton's in the middle, you think, well, there's going to be something coming. And John Beaton gave a penalty with the assistance of VAR, which is kind of incredible. It was a pretty solid penalty. I think Suter's arms are well away from his body when it hits him. But I just thought, there's potentially a thing in the tail. And then sure enough, they get back into it. It's a pretty good goal. Tucks it in the corner. And you think, well, what have they got in response? Well, they did have a response. James Tavernier, you see his involvement in that, just he's awful. Like he's just awful. Like he gets a toe on it instead of just getting his block in and get rid, toe on it into the path of I think Devlin again. He skins it across goal, and then the absolute and the roof comes off Pittodrie at that point. They're going absolutely mental, and obviously then he misses a pretty gilt-edged chance at the death to save a draw as well with a weak header. They're in all sorts of trouble.
Hall of Famer, eh? The decline of a Hall of Famer.
They're in
sad to see.
They're in all sorts of trouble. So I guess the last thing I want to sort of touch on quickly, we may have time for Leipzig just briefly, but really big game coming up, Aberdeen Cup semi-final. We've just spent a bit of time talking about them. What's your view, Brian, going into this one? Do you think it's going to be as tight as next time? Do you think they've got themselves spent after last night? How do you think it's going to pan out?
I think it'll be normal service resumed. We'll get the likes of our first 11 back on the pitch. It's at Handon. We all love playing at Handon, and I think Brendan will be saying to the guys, go out and get the job done as soon as possible. And with one eye on Leipzig, will we not say that? but I do think we'll win 3-1, and their goal
Ian?
will come last.
I think there's a couple of ways to look at it. I think obviously they'll be buoyed from the fact they got a point against us, and obviously they're good form. But I agree with you, Paul. There's a lot of emotional energy that probably went into last night for them, as in terms of like it's a big result, and they're going into, usually they're going in with like a free hit against us. You know, they're the underdogs. You can't really spin that narrative. The narrative is all positive. You know, being top of the league, they've already drawn with us, they've beaten Rangers and stuff like that. So it's a very difficult, a very different game for them to manage in the build-up, etc. And we're very used to dealing with that pressure. So I'd expect us to come through. But much like the game at Celtic Park, hopefully our players have learned from the complacency. And I would expect to see a strong team go out and a fast start, and hopefully, you know, we kind of do the job early doors and then manage the game. And I would hope that's where it's going to be. You know, that's where my head is. My heart kind of feels like it's going to be like a 1-0, a 2-1 to us. It could be one of those sticky games. Let's see.
Yeah. So JJ McGarvey's kind of in our camp. Ian, we were able to rest a lot of players last night, he says, and Aberdeen didn't have that luxury. And that's exactly where I kind of see it. I think we talked at the top of the show about, you know, 6 changes, maybe too many. We didn't play great. It was poor for 55, 60 minutes. I thought we did okay. I thought we played pretty well. We just were a bit disjointed in the final ball. And when a few extra players that were sort of added a slight quality, we fixed that. But we get a lot of players. Some guys weren't even in the squad. You know, I think this is. I'm not convinced that we will rest players with Leipzig in mind. I think we will go as strong as possible in terms of who's fit, and we will go out to try and stamp our authority all over. It's a semi-final. It's a one-off. Anything can happen, and we went a bit too close in the Scottish Cup semi-final against the same opponent, and I think Rodgers will be talking about, you know, the league's even. We've thrown it away against these a couple of weeks ago. We nearly threw it away against these last time we were at Hampden against them. Let's get out at a fast start, high intensity, show them that we are the best team in Scotland, and go and seal our place in this cup final because we want that cup back. There you go, Brendan. I've done your team talk for you, and and hopefully, I get what you're saying, Ian. You know, they're on a bit of form, but I think if we do cast our mind back to that league game, we were by far the better team in that first half. Like, you know, that first 45 minutes, Aberdeen looked like any other SPFL fodder. And then we shut off for 20 minutes and they got themselves back into it in fair play. They could have potentially got a third. And then we chucked the kitchen sink at it. And another day, one of those goes in. And we still get the 3 points despite the wobble. So there's a lot to be said over that journey. But I'd like to think that we will come away with a win, and hopefully by more than just a single goal.
Who's the referee? Does anyone know?
Right, that's your domain.
Sorry, I'm trying to find it.
I don't know. Have they been appointed yet? Sometimes they appointed. I suppose they would be appointed by this late in the week. I don't know.
Sorry.
We're nearly there. I guess I don't think that's going to make as much of a difference as some people make. Thoughts.
No referee appointed or announced.
No, so it'll probably be today or tomorrow. Really quickly, because we're pretty much on time. 2 massive games coming up: semi-final and Leipzig at home. We had some contradictory views on this last week when we were talking about Atalanta. Ian, how are you feeling about Leipzig coming on the back of such a big game this weekend?
Can't call it. It really depends how the semi-final goes, because we could go into extra time, right? You know, and there's different factors as in who gets to have a rest, you know, how does the game go, how do we manage it? I think assuming that we win comfortably in 90 minutes, you know, I think we've got a very good chance against Leipzig. I think just in terms of the form we're in, the way we play, we're at home and things like that. I think that the things that can derail us really are injuries or people being tired or, you know, having to go into that extra time, etc., because it is just such a packed schedule. But let's see, it's kind of, you know, it's that old cliche. Even I'm starting to get to the stage where I can't even look at that game because the semi-final is so massive. It's difficult to even contemplate what state we're going in and who I want to start and things like that. So it's all eyes in the semi, so to speak.
Great stuff. Well, Brian, last thought to you. We've just tipped over the hour. So Leipzig, how do you think we're going to go there?
I think we'll win, and then it's all to play for.
You were all for hiding behind the sofa against Atalanta, and now we're beating the second top team in the Bundesliga.
Are Leipzig not playing really bad at the minute? Are they not?
In the Champions League.
Well, I don't think they're even playing that bad in the Champions League. They've had 3 defeats, but they've played but Atletico Madrid, Juventus, and Liverpool. You know, most teams would struggle against those 3, and you wouldn't be a surprise if most teams in Europe lost to those 3 teams in a row. So I made a strong point last week that I think they're a dangerous beast because they really need to. They need to win. I don't think we need to win. A point's a great result for us in that game. And to be honest, even if we don't get anything out of it, as long as we don't take a scudding, we move on, and there's bigger fish or there's games that are more winnable to come. Well, so I take if you offer me a point from that game now, I would bite your hand off for it. But if we can get a win, Brian, it'll be a famous night. And look, if we're thinking with our hearts more than our heads, then the logical step off the back of the confidence builder from getting a point in Atalanta is this is our home. You know, we're on form. We've got more points than these guys. You know, let's see if we can get a win. I don't batter them. Batter them. I don't think we should be anyway. The guys on Monday will cover Aberdeen and review that, and they will be looking forward to Leipzig. And I guess next week we will be, certainly me and you, Ian, will be back to chat about Champions League and
hopefully this smile is still in our faces.
Let's hope all these smiles are. But look, that's thank you for your company. Thanks to everybody in the comments. Sorry we didn't get more comments up. Sorry, there was a bit of a kind of a talking shop and not so much visuals this week. I really didn't have any time to put that together. I'm sure it will be back to normal when Gav is at the helm next week. I hope he's had some good time with his kids. All that's left for me to say is thanks for being on. We'll see you soon, and hail, hail.
Hail, hail.